Coming up, Joplin plans to incentivize housing developers.
And we got a winter storm a-brewing. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And the old Joplin YMCA gets a new purpose.
It starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 5 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, let's go to Michael Hayslip in the Skywatch Weather Center.
Speak of as of yet, Tanya, but as we've been watching this through the morning now, sweeping across the Red River, about to make its way through the Sooner State and head toward us. Here's where we sit temperature-wise, as low as 8 and 7 degrees in Yates Center and Iola, respectively. Joplin right now sits at 13, Pittsburgh 12, and Miami at 16. The cloud cover beginning to work in from the southwest, and the southwest is exactly where we will turn our attention. Here's what we're monitoring right now. Let's lose the cloud cover, get a better look at the freezing rain, some snow and some sleet that's moving across the Red River into portions of southern Oklahoma. Got the traffic camera up in Lawton, Oklahoma, right there down by the state line. They're beginning to develop a little snow on their roads, and that's what we'll watch as this thing moves in from the southwest and heads toward us. As far as our wind chills right now, we got some impressively low numbers, as low as 8 below zero. Everybody sitting in single digits, and on top of course, the winter storm. It's only going to be in the 20s today. Let's go ahead and talk about what we can anticipate timing wise. Really looking at probably about 9 o'clock is when we see it creep in right there. Once again, the freezing rain indicated in the pink, that is going to be the problem. Combine that with the sleet, it's going to push through for the afternoon hours. Our winter storm warnings actually last until tomorrow night. They don't expire tonight. They expire tomorrow night, because even though we get some intermittent breaks, we're right back at it for Thursday morning. Additional sleet and freezing rain to go along with our snowfall. 7-day forecast will show you back-to-back alert days indicating those winter storm threats for Wednesday and Thursday. Finally calming down with some sunshine on Friday, but really not beginning to melt until we get to Saturday.
Hey, we can look forward to the sunshine then. There you go.
Eventually.
We'll get there. Be safe in the meantime. All right, thanks, Michael. Housing developers can now receive incentives for building new homes in Joplin. On Tuesday, Joplin Council passed the Housing Revitalization Plan. Under the plan, incentives based on the value of a home will be awarded if the new home replaces an existing single-family home and complements the existing neighborhood. Officials hope the plan will encourage more people to build new homes in Joplin.
This is what we wanted. I mean, we want our city to move forward, and we want these areas, our neighborhoods, to improve, and this was a huge step forward. So we want to thank the citizens for passing the use tax ultimately.
The council also received an update on the development of a new fire station. On Tuesday, members of the Carthage Family Career and Community Leaders of America showed their appreciation for area frontline workers. FCCLA delivered care packages, 100 of them to nurses at Freeman and Mercy hospitals. The care packages included lotions, chapstick, and sweet treats.
Our class is Family and Consumer Sciences is what we are, so it's all about giving back to the family and the community. So it just really ties hand in hand, giving service back to other people.
The Carthage FCCLA has 40 members. Another downtown Joplin landmark is set to get a new lease on life. The former downtown YMCA in Joplin, which was home to a number of kids and families over the years, will soon be a real home to kids and families. Sawyer Smith with Blue Haven Homes says they're working to develop apartments in the building. They're the same group redeveloping the historic Olivia building in downtown. Smith says the history of the Y building is essential to its future.
The big one is we want to keep the YMCA feel, so we're going to be keeping the pool in the basement and really trying to transform a lot of the basement area into a gym and keep that activity focus of what the YMCA used to be for so many people around Joplin.
Smith says they're still very early in the planning stages, so an opening date is still too early to set. Freeman Health System gave students at Joplin's McKinley Elementary a first-hand look at new telemedicine technology going into schools in the district. Officials say the program allows students to go to medical appointments without leaving school and without parents having to leave work.
Whether you have no insurance, whether you have Medicaid, whether you have private insurance, whether you're an employee of the school district, we have opportunities, and we absolutely can utilize this program for any of those scenarios.
The program will go live at McKinley next week. It'll be available at other schools by spring break. Grocery shopping during this time of inflation is zapping so many wallets. There's new movement in Missouri to get rid of the state tax that you pay. Reporter Jenna Ray has more.
I go to the grocery store probably 3 times a week.
Schnucks shopper Nicole Mellon says, take the tax away.
I would appreciate it. I have 2 growing boys, and groceries keep getting more expensive.
She says with inflation and rising prices, any break would help. A break. That's what Jefferson County Representative Mary Elizabeth Coleman says her goal is with House Bill 1992.
All the prices are going up everywhere, and I was checking my receipt and I saw that we still had a tax for groceries, and it piqued my interest.
The Arnold lawmaker wants that 1% grocery tax gone. Currently, it helps fund public schools.
It's about a $80 to $140 million reduction that we'll see in the state's budgets. But I think that we're going to be able to absorb that.
Missouri is one of 13 states that taxes your groceries. As of 2020, Mississippi, one of the country's poorest states, taxes the highest at 7%. Representative Coleman says without this tax, schools will not suffer.
I think that there's room to offset that expense, and I just am really not nervous about it. I think that we can do both, make sure that these regressive taxes that hit the poorest of the poor can be taken off the books, and also make sure that we're able to fund education fully.
That move makes some Missourians nervous.
I would prefer that the money, we go ahead and pay the tax for the groceries and let it go to the school system. I have grandchildren and I want to make sure they get good educations, and I want them to have the opportunities that my kids had, because they really had a good education.
Debbie Owens tells News 4 the extra tax tacked onto her receipt isn't a big deal, but she'd take the break if it didn't mean less for education.
Just not take away. I think that anything we can give them to help is a great opportunity.
Now, the bill is still going through committee right now, but if it's passed by lawmakers this spring, it'll go into effect at the beginning of next year. We are introducing a new segment here in the 5 o'clock news. It's called National Blank Day.
Whoa, family friendly. Wait.
Yes.
Oh, you mean fill in the blank.
Friendly, Micah. We're going to tell you what National Day it is every morning.
Blank. My bad.
That way you can learn a little something new and have fun doing it. Might as well take a 2-shot with me and Michael here.
Okay.
Speaking of which, Michael, today is National Banana Bread Day.
Fill in the blank.
Today annually recognizes the sweet and delicious dessert. For it, you need ripe and mashed bananas. It results in a quick bread that is moist and almost cake-like. Some recipes call for yeast, but most don't. Either way, the finished product makes a tasty, slick snack. Toast it and add butter for an even more satisfying treat.
I could eat mine just plain. I usually don't even put butter on it.
I like mine with a little butter and then stick it in the microwave for just a hair. That way it takes the bite out of being refrigerated.
Yeah.
But I mean, the best bananas are the ones that, you know, because I like my bananas when I eat them to be a little green still. They got to be very firm. Oh, right there, there's a perfect one. Got a little brown spot on it. Time for banana bread.
Yeah, I thought you wanted them a little soft.
Yes, easier to mash that way.
All right, we got a handful of school closings to pass along here. All you have to do is go to KOAMnewsnow.com, KOAMnewsnow.com. No surprise that these are in our southern portion of the viewing area there, Miami, Seneca, Mack County. And we'll continue to update these all day long. Also of note, NEO A&M in Miami, NEO A&M College, closed on Wednesday. And then the Northeast Tech Center in Afton going virtually only. Those are just 2 colleges that I wanted to point out. No precip as of yet, brutally cold, but we know that it's all coming out of the southwest right now, beginning to make its way out of Texas and in portions of southern Oklahoma. And that's why we've got winter storm warnings that last all through today into tomorrow night. They don't expire until 9 p.m. tomorrow.
All right, that's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, a local softball athlete signs to stay in Southeast Kansas for her collegiate career. Plus, yesterday was 2/22/2022, or more commonly known as Tuesday. We'll have what parents who just had babies feel about their bundles of joy being born on that unique day. Ever wonder how dirty your kitchen sponge actually is? We're gonna have your answer. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Final game of the regular season for Carthage High School basketball tipped off last night. Tigers facing COC rival Webb City and doing so on the road. The boys game featuring two of the best teams in Southwest Missouri is Carthage 18-6 this season. Webb City 16-8. Currently ranked 6th in the state in Class 5. Cardinals on fire in the first. Cole Vaden, the catalyst, hits from outside. Vaden 10 in the first quarter alone. Finished with 12. Webb City leads 23-6 after the first quarter. Second quarter, Carthage creeps back in it. Joel Pugh connects on the three-pointer. That's a sweet shot right there. Then a little defense off the steal. Justin Ray up ahead to Max Templeman. One thing he can do is finger roll. Big second quarter. Tigers get within 9 at the break. In the third, Vaden to Caden Turner gets the lead back to double digits. Turner led Webb City with 14. Early in the fourth, Carthage trying to stay in at Templeman with a smooth reverse. He had a game-high 21, but it is Webb City getting by the Tigers on senior night and winning 61-54. As for the girls' game in Webb, Carthage trying to avoid a 3-game losing streak headed into the district playoffs. And Webb wins it 38-29. Kenzie Robbins, she leads the Cardinals with 12, while Kate Brownfield adds 11. Another big boys matchup in the COC. 9th-ranked Neosho in Joplin last night to face the Eagles. Joplin wins a tight one. That went down to the wire right there. Eagles prevail 67-63. Pittsburgh High School senior Elle Slaughter signing to continue her softball career at the next level, as Slaughter will be staying in Southeast Kansas to play at Labette Community College. Slaughter's going to play catcher, shocker for the Cardinals next season. She'll be a 4-year starter when the Dragons start the spring season. Opportunity to keep playing means a lot to Slaughter, who has pretty much been playing softball her whole life.
I've been playing softball my whole life, so I know the sport really well. So I think that I'll be confident, and just with the coaching and the girls, I just felt very welcome. So I'm not going to be as nervous going in. This opportunity means a lot to me because with my parents starting the Purple Crush organization, softball has been our life forever since I can remember, and so ongoing with this is just a great opportunity for me. And I love the sport. We all do, so it's very nice.
I've known Elle since she was knee-high to a grasshopper. Got to coach her for a couple years. Great kiddo right there. Elle, #1 from all the Hayslips. Congratulations. And, hey, congratulations to your parents as well. Pitt State runner Mason Strader named the Division II National Men's Track and Field Athlete of the Week, as Strader put his name in the history books, competing at the University of Arkansas qualifier. PSU Junior won the mile race in 3 minutes, 58.47 seconds. Sub-4. First Pitt State men's runner ever to break the 4-minute mark in the mile. And his time, the 4th fastest mark in Division II history. Here's Strader on earning the national recognition and breaking that vaunted 4-minute mark for the first time in his career.
When you're in high school and running the mile, everyone talks about breaking 4 minutes, but just recently it became more of a goal. It was all about improvement each season, and not too long ago I was running a 4:22 mile as a freshman in the Pitt jersey, so it recently built up to that, and just the improvement each season gave me the chance to do that last weekend. I hope that's not the ceiling yet. We got a few more years to go, and we'll keep working until we find a new top.
I did 4 minutes around the track one time, then they tell me I still had 3 laps to go. Nice job, Mason. Still to come on the KOAM Morning News, Holly Williams take a look at what it's like on the Ukrainian front lines and a check on our 7-day forecast with a winter storm bearing down on us when the KOAM Morning News returns. Rolling up on 5:19 on this Wednesday morning. Here's a look at our temperatures, and we're going to get to our winter storm because that'll be the important thing here. But also, too, make sure that especially with the kiddos out and about, because the majority of the 4 states does have school today, make sure we limit that exposure out there, because our wind chills right now, a whole bunch of single digits, if not negatives, throughout southeast Kansas and right along the Missouri-Kansas state line as well. Speaking of those schools, all you have to do is go to KOAMnewsnow.com. Complete list of your closings. We've got a handful of them right now as far as our public schools go. Neo A&M also canceled for today, as well as our lone college on the board so far. So here's where we stand with the little cloud cover working in from the southwest. Now, as we transition down to the Red River, here's what we've got bubbling up. And this is about a 6-hour loop that we're watching right here, and it's really growing as it works into southern Oklahoma. For those of you that are familiar with where Lawton, Oklahoma is, this has taken off in the past 5 minutes. That is freezing rain and sleet. And like I said, this is the last 5 minutes. If you would have looked at this 5 minutes ago, you saw an occasional flake. So when it rolls through and it gets here fast. And we'll just continue to update our Oklahoma travel cameras as we see this progress up to Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and then eventually us later this morning. Winter weather advisory for our counties in purple, and for the pink, that's a winter storm warning. You'll notice your expiration times there are not until Thursday night. That's right, Thursday night. And the winter storm warnings last all the way. You can track that storm just by looking at where those pink warnings are right there, coming out of Lawton, which we just took a look at, and then up toward us is the cold front now, just kind of making its way about halfway through Arkansas. But more importantly, let's concentrate on our snow and freezing rain, sleet, ice, the entire nine. Here we go. Get started about 9 is when we see it creep in from the southwest, and even though we get some intermittent breaks, it's going to stick around because of the cold temperatures, and it just keeps on bubbling up from the southwest, moving to the northeast in some form or fashion. Ice tracker, this is going to be the key factor right here. You'll notice it continues to grow in through Thursday, 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch along and south of I-44, more of a glaze there as you work up in the northern portion of the 4 states, and not much of a melt there until we get into Saturday, and really Sunday is going to be our best chance to actually begin to get some of this off the roads and the yards. Time now to turn our attention to the KOM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll, as yesterday was 2/22/2022, or as it's come to known as Tuesday. Alan Shope in Kansas City with some parents whose little bundles of joy came on Tuesday.
I tried really hard to make it to today.
Meet Newborn Tuesday, born today on Tuesday, literally 2222 Tuesday at St. Luke South.
If I made it till today, then we were naming her Tuesday.
Tuesday was not born at 2:22 a.m. or 2:22 p.m.
That would have been awesome.
But at 18.5 inches long, 8 pounds 9 ounces, Tuesday is the couple's second child.
Everything just fit together right.
Over at Advent Health, Robert and Angie Yu also welcoming child number 2 on Tuesday. Child number 1 born on 1/1/1. No kidding, January 11th.
So it's really easy to remember the birthdays.
They'll have to come up with something else for child number 3. Meet Daisy.
It has nothing to do with the day, we just like the name.
We were just going for a name that's gonna bring happiness.
And good luck.
2, there's a little bit of meaning behind it in the Asian heritage culture of luck and fortunes.
Very cool. Over at University Health, Dejuan Dobbs and Kenesha Smith welcomed the first boy early this morning, but at the time they didn't realize the baby Makai's birthday was all 2s.
Nurse told me like it was 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. I'm like,
They say it's not so much about the date, it's about finally meeting this handsome little boy.
Baby came out healthy and handsome. He's smiling in his sleep. He know it.
Just as a heads up, we have some additional school cancellations. Once again, KOAMNewsNow.com is your one-stop source for schools, colleges, organizations, businesses, activities, the entire nine. Our something to talk about this morning specifically is what season were you born in? You can let us know by going directly to the poll, KOAMNewsNow.com/vote. Or if you're on the website, you checking out the closings, you can log on through there as well, or take a picture of our QR code and we'll get you there. Be back with Health Watch right after this.
Topping Health Watch this morning, months after the scarcity of COVID tests caused an uproar, at-home test kits are now much more widely available. But some of us may have been uncertain about the relative quality of various tests on the market. On Tuesday, the Food and Drug Administration provided some guidance on that. The FDA says it has released a list of all authorized at-home, over-the-counter COVID-19 tests. The agency has posted that list on its website. It includes helpful information like the type of test, how quickly it works, and who should use it in terms of symptoms and ages. Well, a recent study shows brain processing speed stays high until 60. The study, published by the journal Nature Human Behavior, analyzed more than 1 million participants from a wide range who took an online experiment measuring their reaction time to a cognitive task. Research shows response time starts to slow at the age of 20 due to the increases of decision caution, not from mental speed after the age of 60. Scientists saw a decline in results due to the participants' age. Analysis also suggested people of college age were least cautious as they were more willing to trade accuracy for speed. Well, if you're past the Super Bowl and Valentine's bad eating, it's time to return to good eating for heart health. Experts say food is in a way a medicine, so take care of your heart during National Heart Month in your eating. Red meats and processed meats taste great, but they have salts, preservatives, and saturated fats. Fried foods like French fries, fried chicken, and foods with added salt are high in sodium. Sugary drinks can affect cardiac disease and stroke, and diet drinks affect your metabolism. Pastas and breads are okay occasionally, but refined grains can risk your blood pressure and heart disease. Just remember, moderation. It's one of your best kitchen cleaning items, like a laboratory breeding ground item. Yeah, new study says yes. A new Duke University study has the down and dirty on your kitchen sponges. Duke researchers say your average kitchen sponge has more bacteria than a lab petri dish. Duke scientists say sponge microbial species allow for a diverse community of bacteria to thrive. 80 different E. coli strains were tracked on several growth plates. Scientists say structural environments with large spaces like sponges could help microbes thrive. Yummy. Well, a recent study suggests eating veggies may not protect you from heart disease. The recent findings challenge past research that says eating vegetables is linked to lowering the risk of cardiovascular diseases like strokes and heart attacks. Researchers used data from nearly 400,000 people enrolled in a UK study, found higher consumption of raw or cooked vegetables is unlikely to affect the risk of cardiac diseases. Researchers do, however, say eating a balanced diet and maintaining a healthy weight is important to prevent major illnesses. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. Coming up, Joplin plans to incentivize housing developers.
A winter storm begins to roll in and actually carries us for the next 2 days. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, the old Joplin YMCA gets a new purpose.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 5:30. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment. But first, let's go to Michael Hayslip in the Skywatch Weather Center.
Schools popping up there, KOAMnewsnow.com. Just find the closings tab. You can either go to the weather tab or closings there on the front page. And as I said, we update this continually throughout the course of our morning, and there at the bottom of your screen. Thank you very much, Jesse Conley. Appreciate that, my man. We got those rolling by for you as well. And we've seen about 5 or 6 schools pop up since the beginning of the show, an indicator that, especially down to the south, that's going to get a tad bit nasty. Let's start with our temperatures first off, because want all of you that have to be outside to know that exposure is going to be an issue today, as we got temperatures that are far below the freezing point. Wind chills right now negatives throughout southeast Kansas, single digits just about everywhere else. Now, we've yet to pick up any precipitation, but give you an idea of what's down here to the south and exactly how fast it is moving. This thing's got some serious legs on it, and it is picking up fast. We've been eyeballing a specific traffic camera coming out of Lawton, Oklahoma. That's not too far removed off of the state line there, the Texas-Oklahoma state line, but give you an idea of how this thing's coming in right now. This is going to be a combination of sleet and snow that they're picking up. That is what that storm is putting down right now. Now, we've got several hours before it arrives on our doorstep, figuring probably about, say about 9:30 when it does move in. But you'll notice, look at how it dominates the southern portion right there. Gets a little bit better as you move to the north-northwest. But also, too, I want to reiterate that the winter storm watches and warnings that we have, because you see those intermittent breaks, but it keeps on rolling in some form or fashion into Thursday morning. And so, once again, the winter storm warnings and watches, they do not expire, Tanya, until Thursday night at 9 p.m. I know sometimes we look at those expiration dates just really fast, and our brain wants to go, should be done by 9 o'clock tonight. No, that expiration time is Thursday. at 9.
Thursday at 9.
Thursday at 9.
Good to know. All right. Thanks, Michael. Housing developers will soon receive incentives for building new homes in Joplin. On Tuesday, Joplin Council passed the Housing Revitalization Plan. Under the plan, incentives based on the value of a home will be awarded if the new home replaces an existing single-family home and complements the existing neighborhood. A budget of $1 million is being set aside for the project. It'll be paid for by the current use tax. Officials hope the plan will encourage more people to build new homes in Joplin.
This is what we wanted. I mean, we want our city to move forward, and we want these areas, our neighborhoods to improve, and this was a huge step forward. So we want to thank the citizens for passing the use tax ultimately.
Council also received an update on the development of a new fire station. It is being built at 6720 East 30th Street. Bidding for the project is scheduled for April. The developers working on the historic Olivia building in downtown Joplin are preparing to take on another landmark, the former YMCA building. KOAM's Chris Warner met with the developer about their plans for the building.
The old YMCA building in downtown is currently dark, empty, quiet, a shadow of its former self. But that's about to change as developer Blue Haven Homes gets ready to breathe new life into the facility.
We are going to be turning it into apartments on floors 2 through 5. With some commercial space in the lobby.
Sawyer Smith is the Director of Business Development with Blue Haven Homes. He took time to show us around the building as it stands right now. There's still signs inside that it once was the YMCA, and that history is important to the overall plans.
The big one is we want to keep the YMCA feel, so we're going to be keeping the pool in the basement and really trying to transform a lot of the basement area into a gym. And keep that activity focus of what the YMCA used to be for so many people around Joplin.
While this building isn't in the same shape the Olivia building was, there are still some challenges.
It's going to be taking a building that was not designed as apartments and turning it into apartments. But we're working with some really great architecture firms here locally in Joplin. And then Neal Group Construction is the developer on this project who's doing the Olivia building, so we're really confident in their abilities to sort out whatever they need to sort out to make this project a success.
Smith says they recently got a historic designation for the building, opening the doors for some help on the project.
There's a few different financing things that come into play that being a historic building makes it much easier to follow through.
In addition to the 45 apartment units, there's plans for other community spaces.
We'd love to put a deli, coffee shop type area in there for all the tenants above, and just a quick lunch pickup for people in the downtown area.
Smith says this project, combined with the Olivia, should benefit people beyond the residents.
So we really hope that that adds to some really cool dynamics within the downtown area.
In downtown Joplin, Chris Warner, KOAM News.
A lot of memories in that building. Smith says they're still very early in the planning stages, so an opening date is still too early to set. Here's Michael with a look at your forecast.
And we know it's going to be cold. Let's talk about what we've got precipitation-wise. Later this morning, we'll see the highest freezing rain accumulations along and southeast of I-44. And then as you work on the north side of the interstate, that's where you're going to see the sleet and the snow accumulations. As this continues through the afternoon and evening hours, it will impact our travel not only for Wednesday evening and night, but also Thursday morning as well. So when we talk about ice accumulations, there we are, anywhere from 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch down to the south, glazing up to the north. And as far as our sleet and snow, this is a combination of the sleet and the snow. You see that line right there where that could end up yielding about 2 inches comboed, and then as you work up to the northwest, it kind of tapers off just a little bit. You could even hear some rumbles of thunder. The old Jim Cantori thunder snow. Got a chance for some of that this evening. There's kind of one of those interesting phenomena there for those of you that remember the first time Jim was outside and got the thunder snow and how excited he got. We've got alert days for Wednesday and Thursday. Winter storm warnings and watches do not expire until tomorrow night at 9. you want to do the Tuesday babies?
Of course. This morning we're discussing the Tuesday babies. As we mentioned before, yesterday was 2/22/22. Babies who were born on this day have a very unique birthday due to the date. Well, they won't have it until next year. It's a cool fact to talk about when they're older. One of the babies who was born on this day was named Tuesday in honor of the day. How fitting. That brings us to our something to talk about. What season is your birthday in? Summer, spring, winter, fall? We want to hear from you.
Right now we're split, Tanya. We got 42% in the summer and 42% in the spring, leaving only a scant 16% that is also split between the winter and the fall. Take part each and every morning. Connect to us via our Facebook page. Go to KOAMnewsnow.com. Connect to us that, and also check out the closings while you're there as well.
There you go. All right, that's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News, beehive thefts leave keepers in a sticky situation. Plus, a gold mine explosion in Africa claims the lives of at least 59. We'll have the latest there. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Tapping World Watch, there is worldwide concern that Russia is on the brink of a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Holly Williams and her team are near the front lines in eastern Ukraine, where they witnessed heavy artillery fire.
We traveled to the front line by truck with Ukrainian soldiers until we were ordered into this bunker.
Well, we were told to stop and come underground because apparently a local commander says it's too dangerous right now at the front line.
When we made it to the trenches, we found a quagmire. The Ukrainians say the snows melted early this year. The mud might slow an invasion down, the soldiers told us, but it won't stop it.
Normally it's shelling, heavy shelling, 24 hours by 7.
Private Valery Kashkarov told us he was a businessman before he signed up and a former exchange student in Dallas.
Why then would Vladimir Putin invade?
We don't know. We are on our own land, soldiers of this country protecting our country. I don't know what's in the head of Vladimir Putin. I apologize.
Ukraine's been fighting a war against Russian-backed separatists since 2014. And now there's been a new eruption of violence. The separatists are in the breakaway regions of Ukraine that President Putin recognized yesterday as independent republics, drawing condemnation from the US and its allies. US officials say Moscow is arming the separatists, and Ukraine says they're targeting civilian areas, including the village of Novonyativka, where they seem shell-shocked. We're on the brink of nervous breakdown, said Ekaterina Evseva, and there's nowhere to run. Back in the trenches, Sergeant Fedenyk Lubomir told us Ukraine needs protection from the air and said America should help.
The US has previously ruled out sending combat troops to Ukraine, but has sent this country nearly $3 billion in military assistance in recent years. The question now is whether what we're seeing here is the beginning of another Russian invasion of Ukraine. Holly Williams, CBS News in eastern Ukraine.
Death toll from landslides in Petropolis has risen to 186 on Tuesday, and that's according to the Civil Defense of Rio. Heavy rains triggered landslides that washed out streets, swept away cars, and buried homes last Thursday. Another 68 people are missing, and the number of those experiencing homelessness is at least 811. Now, according to the Civil Defense of Rio. A wild hostage standoff in Amsterdam on Tuesday. The hours-long standoff took place at an Apple store. Dozens of police and heavily armed arrest teams headed to the location. The incident was believed to have been the result of an attempted armed robbery. The standoff ended after a police car drove into the suspect as he ran from the store. No word on his condition at this time. Motive for the incident is still unknown. Dozens killed in the African country of Burkina Faso due to an explosion near a gold mining site on Monday. The blast in the southwest part of the country killed at least 59 and injured more than 100 others. It's believed to have been caused by chemicals that were stocked at the site. Burkina Faso is one of the largest gold producers in Africa, but much of the gold is being smuggled into neighboring countries, and mines have also been used by jihadis linked to Al-Qaeda. That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. We'll be right back with the news you need to know before you head out the door. Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Housing developers will soon receive incentives for building new homes in Joplin. On Tuesday, Joplin Council passed the Housing Revitalization Plan. Under the plan, incentives based on the value of a home will be awarded if the new home replaces an existing single-family home and complements the existing neighborhood. A budget of $1 million is being set aside for the project. It'll be paid for by the current use tax. Officials hope the plan will encourage more people to build new homes in Joplin. Missouri lawmakers are working to change the state's election process. A bill in the House would require photo ID and an update of the voter rolls. The bill would also revoke state funding for any local election authorities who fail to comply with the new regulations. Proponents say the changes are necessary to prevent voter fraud. According to New York University's Brennan Center for Justice, 34 restrictive voting laws passed in 19 states last year. Missouri House passes a pair of bills pushing back on requirements to get the COVID-19 vaccine. Legislation includes one bill that would ban public employers from requiring vaccinations, with exceptions for nursing homes and other health care facilities that need to mandate vaccines in order to get federal funding. The second bill would ensure people who are unvaccinated still get unemployment benefits if they are fired for not getting the vaccine. Kansas House has approved a proposed amendment to the state constitution to make it easier for the legislature to overturn state agencies' regulations. Under the proposal, lawmakers could repeal regulations with simple majority votes in both chambers. Lawmakers now must pass a bill and obtain the governor's approval or two-thirds legislative majorities to override a veto. Most Democrats see the measure as a political attack on Governor Laura Kelly. Republicans say they're trying to curb bureaucrats' power. The measure went to the Senate. That's a check of today. The news you need to know before you head out the door.
If you're only in single digits, well, at least you're not in the negatives, because that's what it feels like when you walk outside. We need to be very careful with exposure, because hypothermia, frostbite, those are things of reality when you get down that cold. KOAMnewsnow.com is where you can find all your closings. Just of recent note, Neosho and Webb City calling classes off for today. Once again, complete closings at KOAMnewsnow.com. We have not picked up any precipitation as of yet because we are awaiting what's sitting down to our south as it's now across the Red River. Next stop, Oklahoma City, then up through Tulsa and riding I-44 headed toward us. We'll break down your snow and ice accumulations when we come back here in just a little bit.
Well, beekeepers across the country are buzzing about the theft of bee colonies. It's a growing crime hitting one area hard this time of year. CBS's Danya Baca shows us how beekeepers are protecting their livelihood.
It's a sticky problem for beekeepers in California. Authorities say in the last few weeks, more than 1,000 beehives worth hundreds of thousands of dollars have been stolen from orchards statewide. Beekeeper Claire Towser had 384 hives stolen.
It's very difficult for professional beekeepers like us to keep our hives alive, and it takes us over a year to build a healthy hive. And so when it's stolen from us, it's not something we can easily replace.
The theft is a unique crime that occurs in California this time of year when almond trees start to bloom. Beekeepers from across the country bring billions of honeybees to California to rent them to growers who use them to pollinate their crops.
Almond pollination now makes up over half of beekeeping revenues, so it makes up more than actually honey production.
Experts say the demand, coupled with a weakened bee supply and soaring costs to rent a hive for pollination, makes it a competitive industry. Brittany Goodrich, a professor at the University of California at Davis, says this is not a crime of opportunity.
It has to definitely be another commercial beekeeper or someone with a forklift, someone with, a bee suit or knowledge of when and how to move bees.
Police recovered Towser's hives, but she still feels the impact.
And when these hives are stolen from us, it feels like, a direct violation of our trust. We haven't slept. Even though we recovered our hives, this is something that has just really shook us.
Beekeepers are using GPS tracking devices, surveillance cameras, and other technology to protect their hives. Danya Bacchus, CBS News, Los Angeles.
In California, theft of any agricultural product with worth $250 is considered a felony. The almond industry is now growing self-compatible almond varieties that will require fewer honeybees for pollination. We'll be right back with a check of your forecast.
We're super cold, but at least we're dry for the time being. That will not be the case by mid-morning. Starting to see now the snow and the freezing rain creep its way into Oklahoma City. It's essentially going to take I-44, work its way from OKC up through Tulsa, head toward Ymca, and then Joplin. Farther south that you go is where you will see the majority of your ice. 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch along and southeast of I-44 becomes more of a glaze as you move up to the north. And then when we combo our sleet and our snow, could see as much as 2 inches combined there along that blue line. We'll come back, update our winter storm warnings right after this.
Coming up, the city of Joplin says it will offer incentives to new home builders.
We've got winter storm warnings, watches, and wind chills in the negatives. Winter storm on the way. The Skywatch Weather Center.
And a Joplin landmark that was once a home for activities now becomes a home for families.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6 a.m. I'm Tanya Buck. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, let's go to Michael Hayslip.
You know, we're going to flip order of operations here because we just got a couple more in. We talked about Webb and Neosho being on the board recently. I got some updates for you, Tanya. Carl Junction, going to go ahead. They're canceling classes, and just like Tanya and I were talking during the break, Joplin R8, what is it?
Going virtual?
Virtual only. Joplin R8 is going virtual only.
I think there's another school on the list that's also going
virtual. And I'm just singling those schools out because those are the most recent ones. We've been updating this all morning long, and all you have to do is go to KOAMnewsnow.com, KOAMnewsnow.com. Tell you what, Tim, if you want to take this full, I'll bebop around here. So those are our wind chills. We know it's brutally cold, and we're going to get to that camera here in just a second, but once again, I'll update our school closings here, and we also are running those at the bottom of the screen. But yeah, there's the one that I was just talking about, Tanya. That just came in not too long ago. So we've got Joplin R8 virtual. Now let's go back to the Skywatch storm tracker, where it's cold, but at least we're dry so far. But we're starting right now to see on the bottom of the screen the precip that has made its way across the Red River. It's moving fast. Oklahoma City's up next on I-44. Give you an idea of what this thing was capable of in just the last, what this thing's capable of in the last 6 hours alone. That's a 6-hour loop right there. So we're going to go back here and give you an idea of what they've got cooking down in OKC. We'll take this camera right here. This is I-44 and 96 Road. I can't even use the cameras in Lawton, Oklahoma anymore. They're frozen over with the sleet and the freezing rain. So far, that's our next camera we're going to eyeball. They're ticking along all right there. Once again, that's down in Oklahoma City. But by the time we are said and done for today, we're going to be talking about picking up 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch along and south of I-44 as far as ice accumulation goes. Glaze as you work up to the north, but then when we combine the sleet and the snow, look at this blue band that makes its way through. We could see a combo of 2 inches, and once again I want to reiterate, that's not all snow. There's going to be some sleet under that as well. We'll see the majority of the freezing rain and the sleet down to the south, and then farther north you go becomes sleet and snow after that. And Tanya, remember the winter storm warnings last until tomorrow night.
That's right.
So it's going to affect this afternoon, tonight's travel, and tomorrow morning's travel.
A lot of things to look out for sure.
Fluid situation over here. We got schools, we got organizations, we got businesses, we got tower cameras.
All right. We'll keep you up to date, that's for sure. All right, thanks, Michael. Well, Springfield police issue an endangered person advisory. This advisory came out yesterday morning. The missing person is Kelsey Ann Usher, a white female, age 29. She has brown hair and brown eyes. She was seen last wearing a gray long sleeve shirt with white sleeves. Police suspect Alan Stokes, a white male, age 44. He was seen wearing a gray hooded sweatshirt and blue jeans. According to the Missouri Highway Patrol, Usher appeared to be forcefully taken from 2100 North Clifton against her will by Stokes during a domestic incident. Anyone seeing the missing person or the suspect or associate or anyone having any information related to the endangered missing person should immediately dial 911 to contact the nearest law enforcement agency or call the Springfield Police Department. That number, 417-308-6761. Missouri lawmakers want to change the state's election process, and they're proposing a bill to do just that. A bill in the House would require photo ID and an update of the voter rolls. The bill would also revoke state funding for any local election authorities who fail to comply with new regulations. Proponents say the changes are necessary to prevent voter fraud. According to New York University's Brennan Center for Justice, 34 restrictive voting laws passed in 19 states last year. Missouri House passes 2 bills aimed at pushing back on requirements to get the COVID-19 vaccine. Legislation includes one bill that would ban public employers from requiring vaccinations, with exceptions for nursing homes and other healthcare facilities that need to mandate vaccines in order to get federal funding. A second bill would ensure people who are unvaccinated still get unemployment benefits if they're fired for not getting the vaccine. Well, good news for housing developers, as the city of Joplin will soon offer incentives for building new homes. On Tuesday, Joplin Council passed the Housing Revitalization Plan. Under the plan, incentives based on the value of a home will be awarded if the new home replaces an existing single-family home and complements the existing neighborhood. A budget of $1 million is being set aside for the project. It'll be paid for by the current use tax. Officials hope the plan will encourage more people to build new homes in Joplin.
This is what we wanted. I mean, we want our city to move forward, and we want these areas, our neighborhoods, to improve, and this was a huge step forward. So we want to thank the citizens for passing the use tax ultimately.
The council also received an update on the development of a new fire station. It's being built at 6720 East 30th Street. Bidding for the project is scheduled for April. Well, another downtown Joplin landmark gets ready for a new lease on life and a new purpose. The former downtown Joplin YMCA, which was home to a number of kids and families over the years, will soon be a real home to kids and families. Sawyer Smith with Blue Haven Homes says they're working to develop apartments in the building. They're the same group that's redeveloping the historic Olivia building in downtown. Smith says the history of the Y building is essential to its future.
The big one is we want to keep the YMCA feel, so we're going to be keeping the pool in the basement and really trying to transform a lot of the basement area into a gym and keep that activity focus of what the YMCA used to be for so many people around Joplin.
Smith says they're still very early in the planning stages, so an opening date is still too early to set. On Tuesday, members of the Carthage Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America showed their appreciation for area frontline workers. The FCCLA delivered care packages, 100 of them to nurses at Freeman and Mercy hospitals. The care packages included lotions, chapstick, and sweet treats.
Our class is Family and Consumer Sciences is what we are, so it's all about giving back to the family and the community. So it just really ties hand in hand, giving service back to other people.
Carthage FCCLA has 40 members. Well, on this date, way back in 2000, Carlos Santana wins 8 Grammy Awards for his album Supernatural, tying the record set by Michael Jackson. Santana, born in 1947 in Mexico, began playing the violin at age 5, but switched to the guitar by age 8. Throughout his teenage years, Santana played with bands in Tijuana, and in 1966, he formed the Santana Blues Band. The band triumphed at Woodstock in 1969 and became known simply as Santana shortly after. Santana had its share of early commercial success with hits such as Black Magic Woman and Evil Ways. In '99, Santana released Supernatural, an album notable for its collaborations with Lauryn Hill, Eric Clapton, and Rob Thomas of Matchbox 20 for the song Smooth, one of my favorites. Included in the 8 Grammys were Album of the Year and Song of the Year for Smooth. I remember the artwork on that album.
I remember Lauryn Hill being a part of it.
Yes,
My song,
I had that as in
songbird.
CD form. It was, yeah, I think it was like one of my first CDs because I was still doing rocking the cassettes before that a lot.
All right, Tanya, we're watching it creep in here, getting close to Oklahoma City, and it's just essentially, right, it's on 44 and 35 now. You can just follow the track from 44 on up toward us, and that is why we have not only the winter weather advisories indicated in the purple, but also too, and perhaps more importantly, the winter storm warnings are in pink. That means it is going to affect those areas, and we're going to have some moderate travel impacts, not only for the rest of the afternoon and evening, but all the way through Thursday morning as well. As even though we get a break every now and then, you can tell it still piles up, and that's why that expiration time isn't until 9 p.m. Thursday, and still cold the rest of the week. Really don't get any chance to begin the melt till Sunday. Saturday is 38. That's not gonna make much of a dent.
Hey, you know, I've been looking for light at the end of the tunnel, and the temperatures are going up there at the end of the 7 days, so I will take that. We can make it through these days.
Boy, it's hard to believe that you know that Tuesday panel right there? Mm-hmm. That's March 1.
Go figure.
Isn't that something else?
Yeah.
Crazy.
All right. Well, thanks, Michael. That's a look at this morning's top stories in weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, we've got Jesse Gilmore from the K-State Extension Service stopping by to tell us how to preserve the life of your cut flowers. Also, today marks the 2nd anniversary of the murder of Ahmad Arbory.
Today is Ahmad Arbory Day, 2 years after his murder. I'm Michael George with how Arbory is being remembered in Georgia and across the country.
And COVID-19 numbers continue to drop, and experts want to keep that momentum going with a possible 4th vaccine shot in the fall. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Topping Nation Watch this morning, today marks the 2-year anniversary of the death of Ahmad Arbory at the hands of 3 white men. The 3 defendants have been convicted on both state and federal charges in the case. Michael George looks at how Arbory's home state is now commemorating his life.
2 years ago today, 25-year-old Ahmad Arbory's life was tragically cut short. Now his life is being remembered as the state of Georgia marks the first Ahmad Arbory Day. State Representative Sandra G. Scott introduced the resolution.
It is a day for people to reflect, and definitely for the people of Georgia to reflect on why Ahmad Arbory was killed.
Arbory was jogging on February 23rd when he was chased and killed by 3 white men who claimed they suspected him of burglary.
Greg McMichael, guilty.
All 3 were convicted of murder last year, and just yesterday they were also convicted of federal hate crimes. On Ahmad Arbory Day, Georgians are being encouraged to run 2.23 miles in his memory.
We're finding that running invites everybody.
Personal trainer Tyrone Irby lives in Durham, North Carolina. When he saw how Georgia chose to commemorate Arbory's death, he organized his own run. More than 800 participants have signed up.
What was it about Ahmad Arbory that touched you personally?
The fact that he was minding his own business, running as he runs most every day, and he's chased down and hunted like an animal, and then shot and killed.
Irby is also asking participants to have a conversation about Arbory's death.
Any young black man can be in danger at any place in this country, and we want people to remember that.
He believes the day is about more than remembering. It's about making sure these kinds of tragedies never happen again. Michael George, CBS News.
Since Arbory's death, Georgia has revised its citizens arrest law and passed a new hate crimes law. All 3 men convicted of murder are serving life sentences. Only one of them, William Roddy Bryan, has the possibility of parole after 30 years. A new study indicates gun deaths in the U.S. have overtaken car crashes in terms of number of years of life lost due to trauma-related deaths. It's important to note that the study measures mortality and total potential years of life lost. The study came out on Tuesday. The research examined data from the CDC between 2009 and 2018. It found that in 2017 alone, there were 1.44 million years of potential life lost due to firearm deaths. That same year, motor vehicle crashes caused a loss of 1.37 million years of potential life. Calculations were broadly based on the average U.S. life expectancy of 80 years. 19 Austin police officers have been indicted for their actions during the 2020 George Floyd protest and riots in Texas. Documents released Tuesday say the officers each face 2 counts of aggravated assault by a public servant. They're accused of intentionally, knowingly, and recklessly causing serious bodily harm. Last week, the Travis County District Attorney said that multiple indictments were forthcoming. DA said many protesters injured by the officers were innocent bystanders. If convicted, the officers could face 5 to 99 years or life in prison and a potential fine of up to $10,000. Austin's police chief says he stands by the officers and believes their conduct did not rise to the level of a criminal violation. Well, at least 6 people were hurt in an explosion and fire at an Oregon potato chip plant. 2 people were hospitalized. Some 60 firefighters worked for hours to put out the flames. Residents living near the Shears food plant had to evacuate because of the smoke, and Union Pacific Railroad shut down traffic on a nearby line. Ymca County Sheriff's Office says a portable boiler fueled by natural gas caused the explosion. Let's look at today's top national stories. We'll be right back with Jesse Gilmore from the K-State Extension Service, live in studio.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News. Special guest in the studio is Jesse Gilmore, our horticulture expert, and we find ourselves on a Wildcat Wednesday. Jesse, from the Wildcat District of the Kansas State Extension Office. Jesse, thank you so much. Number 1, for your time. Number 2, for braving the cold.
No problem. It is really cold out there right now, though.
Jesse and I have decided we're over the cold weather, and we were just talking about the calendar getting ready to turn to March, which means planting and fresh flowers are going to be on everyone's mind.
Yep, and last week was Valentine's Day, so hopefully for a lot of people there were cut flowers on people's minds. Americans spend about $2.3 billion on cut flowers every year for Valentine's Day, so it is a sizable market and a lot of bouquets get sold. And there are some ways to keep your bouquets fresh for longer throughout the winter.
How much of this is like the old wives' tale about the angle that I cut it at, and can I use it? It goes back to when we were talking about poinsettias. What's wives' tales? What's the most effective?
So when you're buying flowers, there's 2 different ways you can buy flowers. The first is loose flowers, kind of a loose stemmed bouquet, and then the second is a pre-made arrangement at your local florist.
Sure.
And there's going to be some minor differences between the 2. First, for loose flowers, you want to cut them as soon as you get them, because plants and flowers go through a wound process kind of similar to the way we do, in that the wound scabs over and plugs up. So you want to open up that plug in order to allow water to be taken up into the flower immediately after you buy them.
Now that's going to be my question. So after I cut them, it's like straight in the water.
Actually, you want to cut them underneath the water, and I'll explain why in just a second. But when you get them, you want to cut them. You don't want to take off more than 1 inch of the stem at any given time, because obviously they're going to shrink down below what they can fit in the container for. And you want to use a knife if possible. Scissors are okay, and it's what most people use to cut their flowers, but when you use scissors, you pinch the tissue shut, and that makes it less likely for water to go up the stem.
So I'm taking that scab, and I'm essentially pinching it off like that.
Yep, so you would definitely want to use a sharp knife if possible, and you want to cut it underwater if possible, so have like a bowl of water. And the reason for that is because the air inside the stem is lower pressure, and so the pressure will push down on the water in the container you're cutting it in and force the water up into the stem, whereas if you cut it in open air, air will just rush into the stem.
Is it best to do this in like a bowl setup, or could I put like a cutting board and run water over it? What's most effective?
You could do either. It's probably easier to do it in a bowl setup, just so that you're not trying to make sure that you're getting the water on the wound that you're creating. And then obviously once you cut it and you get the water going up in, you can then put them into your container. Keep an eye on the water in your container. If it gets cloudy, replace it immediately. Otherwise, replace it every 2 to 3 days. The stems will need occasional cutting about once a week.
What do I look for to know when I should cut?
So if you see the outer petals on the flower start wilting, that's a sign that they either have been plugged up or need fresh water. If you buy pre-made arrangements, Oftentimes they will come with plant food that you put into the container, and that's just basic plant nutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. You might need to get that if you get a loose stemmed bouquet instead, but they will need that probably after about the first week. You will only need to add it to the water once or twice. And there should be enough to keep it alive for about a month afterwards.
So that's not one of those things, and I know we all know what you're talking about there, the packet, essentially. So really, it's not one of those things that I need to replace every time I change the water?
It probably would be, actually.
Okay, it's not going to hurt it.
You can ration it out. No, it wouldn't hurt it.
Okay.
You can ration it out, and obviously with cut flowers, water is the most important thing to keep in mind. Nutrients are kind of secondary. If the water gets cloudy, replace it. If the humidity in the place where you are keeping your flower bouquet is higher, it will keep the flowers fresh for longer because water does not escape from the leaves of the cut stems as quickly. And if you do want to increase the life of your flower, you would want to cut as many leaves as possible off of the stem if there are any.
Okay, so that's the loose flowers. If somebody has presented me with a bouquet already, is there any difference in the way I take care of those, or is it similar in nature?
Nope, it's similar in nature. The only thing that really changes between pre-bought arrangements and loose bouquets is whether or not it automatically comes with food included in the container that the flowers are kept in. Oftentimes with loose bouquets, they're not going to have that food in the container, whereas you will get a head start with the nutrients in pre-made
You are such a wealth of knowledge. I got one more thing before I let you go. We were talking about the 1st of March rolling around. Calendar on the 7-day looks really. When am I thinking about planting my flowers?
It depends on the flowers. I would say that bulbs can go in the ground really early, and they're usually the first type of flowers to come up. Daffodils, crocuses, lilies, plants like that. Typically, they're planted probably around now, and they're getting enough water. For annual flowers, you probably want to put them in around the middle of March, just because our last frost date during the year is April 15th, the average last frost date. It does depend from year to year, and Kansas is notorious for unpredictable weather sometimes. But if you get caught by a late frost or a late cold snap, those flowers have a chance to die before you really get to enjoy them. So later in March, as opposed to bulbs, which will probably be coming up around that time.
Great. So can I talk you into maybe coming back here later in the spring and kind of breaking down, now that I know we're not up against the calendar, and kind of walking us through the process and whatnot?
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to come back on and talk more about that.
Our horticulture expert, Jesse Gilmore, from the K-State Wildcat District. Jesse, thank you so much for your time. Love talking to you, my man. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Topping Health Watch this morning, COVID-19 cases, hospitalizations, and deaths continue to drop in the U.S. But top health officials say vaccination and boosting will be critical to keep that momentum going. And a 4th dose of the COVID-19 vaccine might be recommended this fall. Mandy Gaither has the latest.
In the war on COVID-19, the U.S. is heading in the right direction. The new daily case count down 42% since last week. The FDA is continually monitoring data to determine if or when healthy adults could benefit from a 4th COVID-19 shot.
Many of us expect that in the years to come, we will have yearly doses of COVID vaccine, the same way that we do for the flu vaccine.
Countries like Israel and Sweden are already offering a 4th shot of COVID-19 vaccine for older adults. In the U.S., an FDA official says a 4th dose could happen this fall. Right now, the CDC has no recommendations on 4th doses for the general public, but their updated guidelines seem to suggest it's a good idea for some who have weakened immune systems to get a 4th shot of the Moderna or Pfizer vaccine.
People who are immunosuppressed should be going and getting a 4th shot because their bodies are less able to produce that protection that the rest of us have.
Right now, about 65% of the U.S. population is fully vaccinated. 28% have gotten a booster, but the pace of vaccinations is the slowest it's ever been. Health officials say there needs to be a continued focus on raising those numbers.
We need to get the 1/3 of Americans who haven't even gotten their first 2 shots, we need to get them vaccinated. And then of those who received their first 2 shots, older folks, people who are age 50 plus, should be going to get a booster today.
Visually. A fall second booster timeline coincides with when flu shots are typically given, which could be convenient for people. It also makes sense because respiratory viruses like the coronavirus and influenza tend to peak in the winter months. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. Coming up, the city of Joplin says it will offer incentives to new home builders.
We turn our attention to the southwest as the winter storm continues to grow and move toward us. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And a Joplin landmark that was once a home for activities now becomes a home for families.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6:30. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first let's go to Michael Hayslip, who's been tracking this storm.
Frigid cold, number of cancellations that we've seen grow exponentially since you and I started the show, and tower cameras down in Oklahoma revealing what exactly we are in store for. Here's what it feels like. Wind chills as low as 9 below zero in Yates Center. Everybody pretty much single digits, if not just a touch below. Remember, KOAMnewsnow.com, KOAMnewsnow.com. Complete list of your closings. Like I say, we've seen a number of schools since we started the show around 5 o'clock add to this list, and at the bottom of your screen, we continue to scroll through those as well. Of note, Joplin R8 going virtual only. Joplin R8 going virtual only on this Wednesday. Here we are on the Skywatch Storm Tracker, still waiting on our precipitation as it originated in central Texas, moved its way quickly over the Red River and is now around portions of Oklahoma City. So speaking of OKC, let's go ahead and take a look at I-35 and 27th Road. Live look right here where we're starting to see the camera develop some raindrops on it. And here's the deceiving thing when you're up that high. It just looks like, a splatter or two. That's going to be freezing rain that's rolling in. Once again, that is freezing rain. The result of that is a winter weather advisory for us. Those are for the counties in purple. The light blue that you see out to our west, those are wind chill advisories. They're going to slip down to about 20 below zero. We won't quite get that cold. Our attention is going to be about the ice and the snow as our pink counties indicate winter storm warnings. So by the time we get to, say about 9, 10 a.m., here we see it begin to crawl in from the southwest. And as it does, it's actually moving at a pretty good clip right now. And we saw it take off over the Red River. The biggest threat is going to be along and south of I-44 because that's going to be the majority of the freezing rain. Becomes sleet and snow as you move up to the north right there. But after intermittent breaks, this is going to affect travel for tonight all the way through Thursday as our ice accumulations will be anywhere between 1/10 and 2/10 of an inch down to the south. And then don't forget we're going to have sleet as well. Combo that with the snow, that blue band right there, as much as 2 inches of buildup of sleet, snow, and glaze of ice. 7-day forecast shows you we really won't begin to get rid of any of this until we get to Sunday.
All right, well, I'm ready for that warm-up coming Sunday already.
Couldn't get here fast enough, I know.
Oh yeah. All right, be safe out there, everyone. Springfield police issue an endangered person advisory. This advisory actually came out yesterday morning. The missing person is Kelsey Ann Usher. She's 29 years old. She has brown hair and brown eyes. She was seen wearing a gray long sleeve shirt with white sleeves. Police suspect Alan Stokes, age 44. He was seen wearing a gray hooded sweatshirt and blue jeans. According to the Missouri Highway Patrol, Usher appeared to be forcefully taken from 2100 North Clifton against her will by Stokes during a domestic incident. Anyone who sees the missing person or the suspect in question or anyone having any information related to the endangered missing person should immediately dial 911 to contact the nearest law enforcement agency or call Springfield Police at 417-308-6761. Well, good news for housing developers as the city of Joplin will soon offer incentives for building new homes. On Tuesday, Joplin Council passed the Housing Revitalization Plan. Under the plan, incentives based on the value of a home will be awarded if the new home replaces an existing single-family home and complements the existing neighborhood. Budget of $1 million is set aside for the project. It'll be paid for by the current use tax. Officials hope the plan will encourage more people to build new homes in Joplin.
This is what we wanted. I mean, we want our city to move forward, and we want these areas, our neighborhoods to improve, and this was a huge step forward. So we want to thank the citizens for passing the use tax ultimately.
Council also received an update on the development of a new fire station. It's being built at 6720 East 30th Street. Bidding for the project is scheduled for April. Well, another downtown Joplin landmark gets ready for a new lease on life and a new purpose. The former downtown YMCA in Joplin, which was home to a number of kids and families over the years, will soon be a real home to kids and families. Sawyer Smith with Blue Haven Homes says they're working to develop apartments in the building. They're the same group redeveloping the historic Olivia building in downtown. Smith says the history of the Y building is essential to its future.
The big one is we want to keep the YMCA feel, so we're going to be keeping the pool in the basement and really trying to transform a lot of the basement area into a gym and keep that activity focus of what the YMCA used to be for so many people around Joplin.
Smith says they're still very early in the planning stages, so an opening date is still too early to set. Well, on this date in 1945, U.S. Marines take the peak of Mount Suribachi on the island of Iwo Jima and raise the American flag. After 3 days of heavy naval and aerial bombardment on the tiny volcanic island, the first wave of U.S. Marines set boots to the shore on February 19th. The Japanese garrison numbered 22,000 heavily entrenched men, but 30,000 Marines managed to establish a solid beachhead by the first day. Bloody fighting ensued as the Marines advanced inch by inch. On February 23rd, Marines took the crest of 550-foot Mount Suribachi, and over the course of the next few days, the extinct volcano was secured. Joe Rosenthal, a photographer with the Associated Press, took 3 photographs atop Suribachi. The first, which showed 5 Marines and 1 Navy corpsman struggling to hoist the heavy flagpole, became the most reproduced photograph in history and won him a Pulitzer Prize.
Very interesting story about a man by the name of Harold Schultz. Harold Schultz, I believe is his name. He's part of the 6 raising the flag, but he was misidentified.
Oh.
He only told one person his entire life, his daughter.
And
she's the one that brought it to light, that was her dad. He never claimed credit.
And I know after reading about several of our 4 state heroes, that there were several young men from our area who that were there for the raising of the flag.
Yes, they were.
Which is amazing.
All right, here's what we're waiting on. Everything down to the southwest of us right now, approaching Oklahoma City. That's got snow, sleet, and freezing rain. Combo of everything. After it gets here, say about 9, 10 o'clock is when it starts and carries us all the way through the afternoon and evening hours, especially when you get along in south of I-44 where we'll see the majority of our ice and sleet build up. It's going to affect travel not only for this afternoon and evening, but also all the way through tomorrow morning as well.
That's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News, plans are underway for a trucker convoy to shut down the D.C. Beltway after similar protest in Canada caused massive economic disruptions. Plus, Tuesday turns into a celebration of newborns to bring some warmth to our frosty winter time. We want to know which season were you born in. We let you weigh in. We'll be right back. In Consumer Watch this morning, a trucker based in Pennsylvania says plans are in the works to shut down the D.C. Beltway. The move comes after a trucker blockade in Canada caused massive economic disruptions. Now they're protesting COVID-19 restrictions, including mask and vaccine mandates. Sarah Goulden reports.
We're taking our country back. Without our trucks, you have nothing. Because if a truck doesn't bring it, they're not going to get it. If a truck doesn't haul out of the ports, you're not going to get your containers off the ships.
The convoy, led by Bob Bolus, plans to leave from Scranton Wednesday morning and head to the D.C. Beltway, with major stops in Harrisburg and Baltimore.
We're picking up trucks all the way along. Convoys are going to join with us on the intersection of 80-81, where they're coming from other areas.
Bolus, who founded Towers and Truckers of America, says this peaceful protest is about sending a message to the Biden administration.
He's killed our economy. People are losing their homes. You can't operate your transportation companies, the trucking companies. Just look at the high cost of fuel, and it's only the tip of the iceberg.
There are multiple groups planning truck convoys to D.C., and it's unclear how long the protests could last. You're heading there Wednesday morning with a group of people. Other truckers from other states are heading there after. Do you foresee that this protest is going to take, a long time?
Yes.
Any idea how long?
Nope, there's no timetable on it. And when it ends is when the administration and Congress hear our voices.
Bolus says the protesters have no intention of fighting with police. What would you say to critics who argue that this could potentially impact the safety of residents if first responders can't get easily in and out?
First responders will have no problem getting around the people. Hey, go get your stuff off your shelves now because you're not going to get it for a long time. Okay, and do we have sympathy for you? No, because you don't give a darn about us.
D.C. police are preparing for the protest with plans to put nearly 500 officers on civil disturbance units daily starting Wednesday. That's it for Consumer Watch. Let's go over to Michael for our Something to Talk About.
Thank you, Tanya. This morning on the KOM News Now Instapoll, Tuesday babies. As we've mentioned yesterday, the date 2/22/2022. Babies on the who were born yesterday. Very unique date, needless to say. In fact, that baby right there, I believe, is named Tuesday. That's what Mom and Dad decided upon. Our question for you this morning: what season is your birthday in? And right now, the majority of you say you're summer babies. 34% of you, followed by the fall, coming in at 27%. Only 18% born there in the winter. Appreciate your engagement each and every morning. Let's come back, celebrate birthdays and anniversaries right after this.
We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, Corporal Lauren Ball. The native of Chanute, Kansas, served in France and Germany from 1942 until 1945. This highly decorated veteran won the Purple Heart, the Silver Star, and 2 Oak Leaf Clusters. To Corporal Lauren Ball, we thank you, today's four-state hero.
List begins with Jackson Kane celebrating his 6th birthday. Jackson, I want you to have a great day, buddy. He's out in Columbus.
All right, and we've got Tanner Stitt, who's turning 12 years old today. Happy birthday to Tanner and Iola. Love, Nana and Papa.
In Lamar, Jacob Morrison, number 18. Looks like we got a archery expert who's celebrating number 18 right there. Jacob, a very happy birthday to you in Lamar.
All right. And Alexis Edwards, turning 25 years old this year in Pittsburgh, with love from Mom and Richard. Happy birthday, Alexis.
Now, everybody up at Fort Scott Middle School, if you see Miss Chaplin, or if you're in her class, more importantly, if you're in her class, you better wish her a very happy birthday. Lisa, happy 43.
And Jerry Baker, turning 71 years old this year in Parsons. Hope it's a great one for you, Jerry.
Run out to Erie, where Donna McCoy is celebrating her 73rd birthday. Have a great day, Donna.
And Vincel Burke. Love the hat there, Vincel. Celebrating another year wiser.
This is a good hat. I like that. Joyce Stapleton. She is celebrating in Chatopa. Miss Joyce, I want you to have a marvelous day and a wonderful birthday.
All right, and Brenda Reed celebrating a birthday in Chatopa. We head out to Girard, where Madrian Herlocker is turning 89 years old this year. And it's time to celebrate with Susan Conway in Miami.
In Columbus, Brian Reed, he is celebrating his 44th. A happy birthday to Brian. And an anniversary on our board as Pat and Susan Ellis. They celebrate 31 years. Congratulations to the Ellises in Humboldt. A happy birthday and happy anniversary to all. Here's Tanya Bach with a very important birthday announcement.
That's That's right. You can be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club. All you have to do is go to our website and sign up. And once you do, you'll get special deals from local businesses. Go to KOAMnewsnow.com and sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today. Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Housing developers will soon receive incentives for building new homes in Joplin. On Tuesday, Joplin Council passed the Housing Revitalization Plan. Under the plan, incentives based on the value of a home will be awarded if the new home replaces an existing single-family home and complements the existing neighborhood. A budget of $1 million is being set aside for the project. It'll be paid for by the current use tax. Officials hope the plan will encourage more people to build new homes in Joplin. Missouri lawmakers are working to change the state's election process. A bill in the House would require photo ID and an update of the voter rolls. The bill would also revoke state funding for any local election authorities who fail to comply with new regulations. Proponents say the changes are necessary to prevent voter fraud. According to New York University's Brennan Center for Justice, 34 restrictive voting laws passed in 19 states last year. And the Missouri House passes a pair of bills pushing back on requirements to get the COVID-19 vaccine. The legislation includes one bill that would ban public employers from requiring vaccinations, with exceptions for nursing homes and other health care facilities that need to mandate vaccines in order to get federal funding. A second bill would ensure people who are unvaccinated still get unemployment benefits if they are fired for not getting the vaccine. And the Kansas House approves a proposed amendment to the state constitution to make it easier for the legislature to overturn state agencies' regulations. Under the proposal, lawmakers could repeal regulations with simple majority votes in both chambers. Lawmakers now must pass a bill and obtain the governor's approval or two-thirds legislative majorities to override a veto. Most Democrats see the measure as a political attack on Governor Laura Kelly, but Republicans say they're trying to curb bureaucrats' power. The measure went to the Senate. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Watch out for prolonged exposure outside, frostbite, hypothermia. Those are legitimate things to worry about when our temperatures are this low. And then we're sitting around waiting on the precip. That's just cloud cover right there. Here's what we've got headed our way, now working its way out of Oklahoma City. Its next stop will be Tulsa. Be on us probably about 9-10 a.m. I think the key factor of this camera right here, which is just on the burbs of OKC, was that not the raindrops. It was half an hour, 45 minutes ago we took this same shot. It was clean as can be. Now, you're starting to see the snow and the ice quickly pile up. Like I said, that's about the 45 to half an hour mark is what that resulted in. Gives you an idea how quick this can come down. Future track for us, it's going to impact our travel for the afternoon all the way through Wednesday night and impact our travel for Thursday morning as well, as we'll see anywhere from an inch, tenth of an inch to 2/10 of an inch along and southeast of I-44. Glaze as you work up to the north, and then remember, combo that sleet and that snow and that blue band right there results in about 2 inches of accumulation by the time this thing is done Thursday afternoon.
All right, well, coming up today at noon, we're making the best broccoli salad in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Morning news continues on KOAM, CBS Mornings. That's next. And if you've ever wondered what makes a good trivia question, well, 12-time Jeopardy winner Austin Rogers, we're hoping he has an answer.
Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues. And this morning, the women's U.S. national soccer team and the U.S. Soccer Federation finally come to an agreement on equal pay.
Hey, do me a favor, everybody. Be safe out there for the rest of the day and into tomorrow. And we will see you again tomorrow morning.
And we'll see you again today at noon.
It was a Saturday.